Hey, it's Adam from Buzzy. I wanted to talk to you about vibe coding and some of the challenges that people are having today with vibe coding and how Buzzy can help you with vibe no coding. So firstly, when you're building an application with vibe coding, you're using prompts, it's generating a ton of code. Really, when that goes off the rails and you can't get the functionality you want, you need to jump into code. And for many people, that's way off the deep end. They don't have the skills to be able to do that. We generated, maybe thousands of lines of code. And to understand whether the application's actually working based on your specification with the right level of security, functionality, etc., is really, really hard to verify. The second important thing is that once you've generated all that code, to be able to maintain it is really hard. It needs to remain secure. There's security patches coming out, there's new version of components coming out, and you need to be able to prepare to do that. And again, you're going to need development skills to be able to do that in the long run. So with Vibe no coding, what we allow you to do is to be able to create applications from prompts, generate the full application on a known code base that you do not have to touch, do not have to maintain, and it allows you the flexibility of not having to be technical to create the core application and then to go on without having to worry about all of that. So let's look at an example, excuse me, and I'll take you through some of the details. So this is a very simple marketing dashboard for a team to be able to do things like share and assign tasks. There are various status reports or widgets here. You can look at each of the tasks that are available, who they sign to, and who you've got to the team. So not an insanely complex application, but pretty complex in that it's got relationships between data, like full create, read, update, delete, as well as some charting and that. So if we look at how this was created within Buzzy, we started with a prompt of here, which was create the app. We've given it the instructions and the outline of the application. We've also given it a screenshot of what we want it to look like and maybe some other functional requirements. So Buzzy can take all of that. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to generate a brief. Now, a brief is like a mini product requirements document. It gives you all the functions and features, things like the high-level data requirements. If there's external requirements to integrate with external AI or external systems, it will include that in it. And it's fully editable. So this is a more detailed prompt than what you initially used over here, which gives you the ability to define things in a better way. The next thing it will do is it'll create a blueprint. The blueprint is like a sitemap. These are all the different screens, and we give you a very quick lo-fi way, if needed, to be able to modify and remove elements from the screens. Now that's often a lot faster than wrangling with AI. Now you can tell AI to modify the blueprints or modify the application and it will do that, but you can also do that manually, and that's really, really important. Now we'll come back to the design tab in a bit, that's the application, but also underlying, this is a pretty simple app as I mentioned. It will generate the database, so we've got things like data tables over here like team member and task. Again, it's all done that for you automatically. It's going to give you a full content management system that you can come in and manage the data through the backend if needed. You can also do things, more complex things like set up rules where you can make external API calls based on user interactivity or certain things happening. It might do things like send a notification or push notification to a user and so on. There's other areas like theming, which is the look and feel, and again, that's all controlled centrally. And again, you can control it through prompting or modifying manually. And then, as I mentioned, if this app doesn't have it, but if you had external functions that you wanted to call, you can call these in a secure, efficient way. So when we drill into the design, we now see the screens that have been generated, and we'll have a look at this in a sec. This is the dashboard screen. I'll just close that. And this is your workspace or your designer that you can come in and modify all the screens. You can, if you're in edit mode, you can do things that you can click on an element of here and you can change it based with no code, without having to write any code. So this opens it up to a whole different skill set of users to be able to create and modify applications. So when you're wrangling with the AI and you want to just modify it, I just want it to look like this or I want it to do this, you can come in and modify this manually right here within the IDE or integrated development environment, or you can also prompt with it to make changes as well. So super, super easy for you to be able to modify that and obviously go through and develop your application testing without writing any code. Now, When required, there are what we call Buzzy code widgets or the functions. Those are code. The AI will generate those for you. You can chat with it to make modifications to it. But for a developer, they can come in and modify that code based on their requirements. Now, what we're doing is we're reducing the amount of custom code that you might have to maintain. So instead of maintaining all the screens in the application and the way that it works with the backend and the database, we've dealt with all of that for you. We've future-proofed it for you. And then it's just really those special bits where you couldn't get that to work out of the box just with AI and you needed a code widget. So in this example, things like the charts over here are code widgets that you can come in and modify. And again, you can modify them with no code and for certain of the parameters, but then you get to be able to modify them in code, and that's using standard coding like React.js. And again, you can chat with it and it will modify that code. The AI will modify that code without having to touch it. So really what we've done with Vibe no coding is allowed you to create a full stack application. It will work both on web and native, so iOS and Android. We also then allow you to modify that application either manually or using prompts. And that means that you don't have to worry about the core application and either writing that initial amount of code, understanding that initial amount of code, and then most importantly, maintaining that down the road. So these are all things that you need to think about when you look in a vibe coding platform, is what's going to happen after you've either got the first version running and what happens after that. So thanks for watching. We'd love to see what you build with Buzzy. Don't hesitate to reach out and go out there and do some cool vibe no coding.